Hey there, this is Wythe Marshall from the Stillfleet Studio. We put together a little podcast called Why We Roll, and now we're very proud to be part of the network Podderation. So if you're listening to one of Podderation's other great shows, and you're interested in TTRPGs specifically, that's tabletop role-playing games, you might be interested in our show. Why We Roll is all about how you make TTRPGs, what makes them fun, different kinds of stories you can tell with TTRPGs, and even the business, so the practical advice side. So if any of that sounds appealing, whether you're a GM, you want to design your homebrew game, or you're interested in getting in the industry, why don't you head over to Why We Roll, check us out. We really, really appreciate it, and keep making awesome stuff.
Welcome to Board Games Anonymous, the podcast where everyone's welcome to the table, but of course, as always, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
And this is Dave.
And this is episode 576, Quick Takes from the Table. We'd like to thank all the Patreon backers for helping us bring you a brand new episode. Welcome back, everyone. So glad for you to join us at the table here this week. We have Game Master Dave with us. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing okay. Been busy. I've actually played more games recently. This is a good time for me to jump in because I played more games recently than I normally get a chance to play. So
very cool, Dave. We love having you on board. You're the game master of games, and recently you talked about obviously running conventions and doing all those kinds of events and programming. Right. Do you have anything coming up that people should know about?
I do. If you're living on Long Island, well, I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but I have an event tomorrow night, which is Friday, the 24th. I didn't ask Chris earlier. Nope. He's probably not getting the podcast out by then. But the first Friday of the month, I'm usually at the Bethpage Library teaching games, and then we have other events coming up later in the year, which we'll eventually talk about. And I'd also like to say, in homage. I am far from the best replacement for Anthony, but I do really appreciate being on Board Gamers Anonymous again. And I sent a note to Anthony, and he said now he's going to... Actually, I heard you guys talking in the last episode that now he's going to get a chance to actually listen to the podcast.
He is, because he doesn't listen because he records the episode, which initially when we started doing the podcast, I found really odd and funny. Because I would still listen to the podcast, even though I recorded the podcast.
Right.
And then at a later date, I edited the podcast. And even still, I used to listen to it. And now I think I just do listen for any problems or issues at this point. But yes, now we could talk about Anthony because he's listening. Hi. Hi, Anthony.
Now all the dirty laundry can come out.
Oh.
Not that there was any dirty laundry ever.
Or was there?
Oh, maybe there was. This should be an exclusive. Maybe you need to interview him instead of actually having a message.
There you go. Yes. He'll have to listen every week now just to make sure that we're not saying anything in particular. So who knows? It could be this week, Anthony. Could be next week. I don't know.
Well, I know that Chris has already said a million times, thanks to Anthony for being on the podcast. But I've actually met Anthony in person multiple times at some conventions, and super nice guy. I mean, unbelievable. You really couldn't have ended up with a better partner, Chris, for almost 13 years. So,
yes.
Both of you guys worked well together. I've listened to many, many of your podcasts. Not all of them. I did start at episode 1 for a while.
I know.
I probably got up to about 25, I think. But now I sort of just listen to the most recent ones. I also noticed that, I heard in your last one that on the website you retained, on your last podcast, I heard that you retained all the past episodes. So Anthony didn't go anywhere. He is on 500 and what 70? Well, how much was it?
575,
575
give or take.
episodes, give or take. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on your website. So he is living large over there now.
Yes, if you're looking for any of your Anthony Fix, Anthony Charm, please jump back to any of those episodes. Anthony's missing in one or two of them here and there, but nonetheless, he is there. And we wanted to keep that archive alive because obviously games are evergreen and everlasting, and so are all of our comments and thoughts and good takes and bad takes. But you got to listen to those episodes to find out, because obviously so much has happened over the years in tabletop gaming, Dave, but also games are still great from a long time ago. And I think that's oftentimes a lot of people just focus on the cult of the new,
That's right.
as far as what's coming out. But, sometimes you should take a look back, because there's great games that people have forgotten. Again, especially where there's so many games coming out. So please take a listen back. I know Anthony will appreciate it. Maybe Anthony will be taking a listen back with you.
Yeah, maybe
And
so.
enjoy the fun.
I did like a lot on your last episode where Anthony, you guys talked about the back and forth about games that are on his top 100,
Yes.
and how they moved
Mhm.
from different years. But it sounded like the majority of the games are still on his top 100. It sounded like there was a switch of maybe like 15 or 20 or something like that.
Yes.
But,
Every once in a while, a game comes along and re-innovates, a particular game mechanic or genre, or a designer goes back and corrects some of its issues or mistakes, or an expansion comes in. But again, I that's a good point, Dave, because it's surprising, because obviously we've been rating and reviewing games for like 13 years now at this point,
right.
and I would say certainly the vast majority of the games that got up there, like on the higher level, are still there. And again,
Right.
it's kind of hard to say, because so many games, they're so great, and especially these days, the games are even better. In some cases, they're even better. So it's kind of hard for those games to stick up there, but when they do, it's an impressive feat.
I do about maybe on average 3 or 4 library events a month here
Sure.
out on Long Island, and I probably get asked at least once a month, "What's my favorite game?"
Ah, yes, the
And
question.
and so I've always been like, I wanted to put together a top 100 list. I figured you would I put together a top 10 on my website, but I haven't looked at it probably in 2 years. It probably needs to be adjusted. And we're going to talk about a couple of the games today
Sure.
that I would say is probably in my top 25. So,
Whoa, that's nice. Yeah, sounds like a podcast episode, Dave. I'm just saying,
Hey, maybe we could talk about it someday.
Yeah,
or
let's
some
see.
minute.
We're at 575, so 25 episodes from now will be our 600th episode. So that might be. Usually we do our top 100s at the 600 level. I'm sorry, every 100 episodes, give or take.
That makes sense.
Sometimes I think 250 we had done one, because again, 10s and 5s are special, Dave. I don't know if you know that, but that's a very big thing.
I do know that because that's when all the reenactors go out on every 5-year anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. All the reenactors come out, and those are the times that I make sure I'm at the battlefield of Gettysburg to see that. So 5s and 10s are very important.
They are very important. So if we hit 600, Dave, you're welcome to come on board and hit us with your top 100. But I think everyone should. Again, this is probably a conversation for another day, but I think it's good to come up with that list. Not necessarily to be the definitive list,
right.
But I think it's a good kind of recounting autobiography exploration of like why we love the things that we love, and what kind of mechanics and experiences really kind of resonated with us, because we're always looking for the next great game. But unless we take a moment historically to look back at the things that we love and why, and then think critically and deeply of why we love those things, I don't think it's as easy to make good decisions in the future.
Right.
So those games are on our shelves, which is great, but like, why is it on our shelves? Why is it staying on our shelves? Like, again, we should have more of those kind of general conversations.
And then the 2 podcasts before the last one, you guys were talking a lot about game mechanics, and that both of you have different types of game mechanics that seem to scratch that itch.
Yes, absolutely. We're talking about innovations over the years. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where you had a hard line between Euro mechanics and Amerithrash or narrative kind of game mechanics. and
Right.
that's kind of blurred together over time. So it's an interesting idea to look at these game mechanics, because I know this for you, Dave, especially as a teacher of games. When
Mm-hmm.
we teach games to other people, I think the magic of it all is that because game mechanics are not trademarked, you can find the same game mechanics in so many similar games.
Right.
So you tell people like, oh, it looks like you have like 1,000 games. It seems very scary. How do you learn all these rules? I'm like, well, these games are all deck builders. And once you
Right.
learn how to do deck building, you'll know how to do the vast majority of deck builders with like little oddities here and there. So, and then obviously some game mechanics are more dynamic than others, and some fall away. Like a roll and move game is not as dynamic as a tableau builder, for
Right.
example.
I,
So
I say all the time, not all the time, but very often I say when I'm teaching a game, I'm like, look, because when I set up a game, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to play this?" They get intimidated by the number
yes.
of pieces or the size of the board or whatever it is. If they're the first time playing that game or they're new to board games, especially, and I basically say something like, "Look, this game really boils down to a certain mechanic, and once you get used to that." And I'm going to
Hmm.
be here working through that with you for a couple times around the table,
Yeah.
once you grasp the concept of that, then you got it. Like a very common one is Azul.
Yes.
The scoring in Azul is very different. The tiles are awesome. The board looks very colorful and everything like that. But how you line up the tiles on the left hand side and move them over and score them, it's not intuitive. But really, once you go twice through how to score, it totally makes sense.
I'll also say, Dave, I'll take that point a little bit deeper as an educator, to being able to kind of identify that kind of experience that you can then replicate in other places. I will also say that obviously analytically, the way your mind starts to open when you kind of play these game mechanics, like you said with Azul, like that pattern building and strategic choices and the tactics that you have to employ and things like that. It's so helpful for life, right? Like there's so many things you learn and keep your brain fresh and going and smart, but
Right.
also like make ideas better because like, oh, I understand all these different processes and principles. And having played a lot of games over the years, like you mentioned about Azul, but also talking about more like the war game side of it, like there are certain mechanics that feel better and are more of your default situations. Like
Mm,
some people love role playing games and like it's their jam, or like some people love storytelling games, or some people like troops on a map, and there's just something
right.
about that gives them such a great experience. Or I love tableau builders. There's something about seeing everything on the board in front of you, or
Right.
somebody like take that, or auction games, or press your luck games, right? Like maybe there's a little bit of a gambler in you and you're like those press your luck games. So
Right.
your personality does also match up with certain games too. So I think that's
Right.
also fun. And again, sometimes the opposite. It'll pull you out of those things to like, maybe you're not a very extroverted person, but maybe certain party games or social deduction games make you want to interact with other people. So there's a lot of great stuff, a lot of great things to learn about yourself when playing tabletop games.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. And I have a lot of fun teaching games and seeing what you just talked about, like exposing people to different mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, American classic games are pretty much roll some dice, move a piece,
Yes.
and then do the action on wherever you landed.
Mm.
But there's so many interesting game mechanics out there, and like you mentioned, when we got hit with the European invasion of games, there was a
Yes.
whole other set of game mechanics that we got exposed to pretty darn quick.
Yeah, and we've talked about this over the years too, about scaffolding. Like you learn one game mechanic, like again, like maybe you learn set collection, right? It's
Right.
very simple, straightforward, and then you're like, all right, cool, but set collection, but you have to build a deck to make the set collection. Okay, so now I know set collection. Now I have to learn deck building.
Right.
Okay, now I got set collection and deck building. Now I can put out cards to the board. All right, now I'm learning tableau building because I built a deck. I know how to put certain things together. I put them on the table. They activate. They create some sort of mechanical activation machine kind of thing. Cool.
Right.
Now I learned Tableau building, right? Again, it just builds over time. So,
Right.
and it's fun. It's fun to feel smart when you're playing a game and you're just like, oh, I understand. I've seen this before. I've seen this in other things. So,
Right. And you have some exposure to it. So, you know, it's easier to grasp that concept because it's similar to something you've already learned.
Yes, 100%. And I think just generally for the tabletop market in America, we're starting to get more and more hobby level tabletop games into stores so that people will actually get a chance to play stuff that's a little more, again, complex is not the right word because I don't think they're more complex, but obviously your Monopoly is a dumbed down version of a lot of great games that are out there. So
right.
No, it's great. And obviously sharing the podcast and sharing your tabletop love with other people definitely gets more people to play tabletop gaming, and of course that allows for you to play more tabletop gaming. So
that's true.
It benefits everybody. It's just a good idea.
Yeah.
100%. So, and again, thanks to a little note here. Obviously, we talked about this on the podcast, but I think initially when we announced that Anthony was leaving, but again, a big shout out to Dave, and I'm sure on behalf of everybody out there who's listening now, Dave, because you were very much the force, that inspired me to continue with the podcast, because we talked about this, and obviously it was a very hard decision losing Anthony, because this was obviously the podcast that we made together. And certainly we have to remember, and you reminded me of that there are certainly more people at the table right now at this very minute listening, who are joining us, who are participating by their listening and sharing and actions and Patreon and everything else, that we have to remember that are there too. So thank you, Dave. And I know it's coming from a big shout out from everyone out there in the audience.
Well, thank you very much. I remember when we had a heart-to-heart conversation about, when you told me that Anthony was leaving, and it ain't easy, doing something for almost 13 years. I mean, I owned a retail store for 10 years, and it was not easy to let
Sure.
it go, and it just had to be done. And now, I mean, it sucks. It really, really sucks.
It does.
But I'm in a great place right now.
That's good.
So life can turn around those hard decisions and stuff. And Anthony, after he does what he does, listen for the first thing, he's going to be listening to the podcast. So after he does what he does, maybe he'll be back. Maybe he's going to be a regular guest. Maybe he'll be involved in behind the scenes. And then he even said himself, he's like, it's not like he's going to stop playing games. It's not like he's going to stop communicating with you, Chris.
Of course not.
So you guys have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's just a change, and it is what it is. And I'm not going to be on here every week. I think Chris, you mentioned a few times that we want to reach out to other people to come and come to the table. Yes. So there might be opportunities coming up where Chris might interview you about something or whatever. I don't know. So the future is unknown. It's going to be great, whatever comes down. It's just difficult right now. We already miss Anthony.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of you out there listening do too. But the other thing you guys mentioned is Anthony came on and said, "Thank you for all your notes. I'm not unwell. I'm not sick. I'm just taking a step back for a moment."
Well, and the other thing about the podcast, Dave, has always been, from a very early point, and again, we're talking since the very beginning, the idea of Board Gamers Anonymous was that, as Anthony and I met at a board game store, and we met a lot of people at the board game store, and especially where board gaming was back then, it wasn't thought of as something that average normal adults would do, right? It was seen as an oddity that you would be playing role-playing games, board games, miniature games, war games, things of that nature. You should be at the clubs, the bars, all those other kind of crazy things, shooting things for some random reason, right? Like all the other kind of stereotypical kind of machismo activities. So that, on top of the fact that so many tabletop gamers or people who came to play tabletop games, was because we were adults who really wanted to connect with other people in a meaningful way, and tabletop games gave that to us. And some of us, whether you're neurodivergent, neurospicy, or, and again, all of that's on a spectrum because we're all somewhere out there in the world.
Right.
Or you're just looking to socialize again in a world that has very few places to really socialize and very few third spaces to get together. We always wanted our podcast to be a virtual third space for people to feel connected, no matter what their background was, where they were coming from, so that they could feel connected and part of a whole. So we want to have as many voices as possible. So I know a lot of people have been reaching out and we've been getting a lot of questions. Again, if you're interested, if you'd like to come on for an episode, please let me know. We would love to have your voice added to the table. The more the merrier, because again, that's what we've always been about. No matter what level of experience in gaming and podcasting or just in life, we would just love to have you join us at the table.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for you, Chris.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Okay.
No one does that.
Because you might have mentioned, I'm sure you mentioned it in a podcast. It might be one that I did not listen to yet.
Oh, come on, Dave. You got to catch up, man.
And I always had I made an assumption. All right.
Sure.
We're not supposed to make assumptions. But I was always thinking that the name Board Gamers Anonymous arose from that, like, it's out there into the public domain that board gamers, tabletop gamers might have an addiction issue with purchasing products.
Yes.
And so I was wondering if that is where the Board Gamers Anonymous name came from.
That certainly was a how would you say it? Kind of a early on happy accident as far as when we got involved in tabletop gaming, there was certainly a level of how would you say it? Responsible addiction that came with purchasing tabletop games.
Yes.
And again, I believe Jeff Engelstein, famous tabletop game designer and social scientist and everything else out there, I think he either had developed or had some sort of survey. And it was something like people who got involved in tabletop gaming, seriously, like they would buy a game or two games and then play those and get involved in tabletop gaming, and then would buy like 30 games like right after that. Like it was some kind of, and forgive me on the numbers, but like it went from like 1 to 2 to like 30 or 50 or 60.
Right.
And yes, Dave, I am representative of that as well, because I do believe at some point I did call up, I think way back in the day, Miniature Market. I was like, hey, you have like a 10 or 15% sale off things. Like, what if I bought a couple $100 worth of games? Could I still get that? Like, would that be weird if I got a giant box of games? But to be fair, Dave, that was back in the day when games were fairly inexpensive and affordable, and you could get deals and discounts at your friendly local game store. Yes. That is not the case anymore. That's right. So right. I think I think certainly the size of these boxes has quelled the addiction, as well as the cost of games certainly has done that, as well as the acquisitions and mergers of so many companies. I will also give you one more variation of Board Gamers Anonymous that was kind of true as well, which was we felt spiritually, not technically, but we felt spiritually connected to, I don't know if you know about Anonymous, these hackers on. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Because
I never even thought of that. Go ahead. I'm curious.
Because we early on felt very connected to tabletop gamers, as far as like we wanted to help guide them make better purchases. And we felt that generally as an industry, the marketing of games to the public was problematic for many reasons, which again would be a whole episode. But we wanted to help people, educate people on tabletop games to make the best purchases possible for them that met their needs, their desires, their goals, and kind of sway them away from bad games and also games that were misleading. So especially back in the day, 13 years ago, there were a lot more games out there like that, especially on Kickstarter. There was a lot of like weird, lying, false kind of games and stuff like that. So we had a very strong moral, social justice take on, like, we want to protect our people. We want to make sure that they get great games. We want to make sure they don't get taken advantage of. Like I did a podcast of like please don't back these, crowdfunding things because they're a scam. And again, a lot of tabletop companies like this game plays, from 1 to 12 people. Like, that's not a thing. Not, this is a bad game, or don't purchase this, or don't back this. Because again, we love the tabletop industry, and we felt like we were also protecting that as well. We were protecting the industry and designers as a whole, and we were supporting designers in that market where it did not really, like, the larger corporations did not recognize, right? They didn't put the names of the designers in the boxes, right?
Right.
Or the friendly local game stores were getting pressured by the big box stores, and we want to support the friendly local game stores. So
That's
that was
really interesting.
Yeah. So there was a lot of the dynamics were a lot more fluid and fresh and frontier back in the day. Now they're kind of streamlined and corporatized. Like, you could find relatively very good tabletop designer games at a big box store, which again, that was rarely ever the case.
Right.
And friendly local game stores needed your support, and now they're very few and far between. So a lot of things were happening. A lot of changes. Kickstarter, right? Kickstarter and GameFound. I would say 95% of the games are legitimate and also probably on some level okay to good.
Right.
That was not the case back then. That was like, people were ripping off IPs and game mechanics and stuff like that. So So it was a three-leaf clover, Dave, as it was.
All right. Well, that's really curious. I've gotten grief over the years a little bit about me choosing my company name, Game Master Games, because people are like, it has game in it twice, in the name, and I'm like, but where does the Game Master go to get his games?
It's true.
To Game Master Games, right? And
100%.
GMG seemed to roll off the tongue pretty easily, as BGA, in my opinion, rolls off the tongue pretty easily.
Yeah, and we've used BGA for a lot of things out there. And again, we wanted to be about the gamers as much as possible, whether they felt anonymous, whether they were treated anonymously by the industry or by other gamers, or, as you said, Dave, as they had this love and passion and addiction to purchasing as many games as possible. Or again, we used to talk about this a lot, Dave, like in probably the middle of the episode, like 200 some odd episodes, whatever it was, like being completionist, right? Like, I would want to buy every promo for a game. Like, I would want to have a game complete. I would want to have every piece that came with that game. That became expensive.
Yeah.
Because you would buy a game, and a game maybe back then was $40, but sometimes the promos would be like $5-10 each. And by the time you collected all the promos, like Castles of Burgundy early on had tons of promos.
Well, I think that's how, I don't know how GameFound does it. I'm not that familiar with it, but I know that's how Kickstarter does it, is that, you go for $10 more if we hit this tier, for $15 more, for $25 more. And you're just like, of course, click, 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 click.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of better now because you could get everything all in one spot, but it's kind of worse now because you have to pay for all of it in one spot.
Okay.
And back in the day, like, you would get the base game, and if you wanted the expansion, you would have to purchase that separately. But maybe you don't want the expansion. Maybe you were happy with the base game, or maybe the expansion doesn't make the game better. Or there's like 4 promo cards, but instead of the Kickstarter adding $20 to it, maybe you want 1 or 2 of them, and it's $5. But also, it was also that situation where you went to conventions to get these things. There were convention exclusives, and sometimes finding them was half the fun. Board Game Geek used to be they still have their own store, but they used to be a much bigger source for like promos and things like that.
Okay, right.
So it was
all right. Cool. Well, I was curious about that. Now now that you had me thinking about coming on the show today, and I was sort of like, where did this name Board Gamers Anonymous come from? I wonder if your listeners knew. So I like your explanation.
Yeah, no, it certainly has. It's both been true from the very beginning, and it's also been an evolution throughout. So obviously the industry's changed, and we've kind of gone along with it. But I think that the key principles still remain to this very day.
Okay, so now I got a follow-up question.
Yes.
Who thought of the name? You or Anthony?
I think we were battering around, both of us. I think I was the one who finally came up with the final name on that.
Right.
So we had a couple of names in mind, and I think that as a group we decided on that. We had a couple of we were bouncing around like a bunch of them at the time. I think we had one of the names that we had was chaotic neutral or something like.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was more of an RPG kind of title, but it kind of represented uh some gaming that we've had with some other people where like they didn't care, they would just do things. So we had batted around a long time, and then
Okay.
it was my idea specifically to and my decision to switch it just straight up to BGA, because again,
Okay.
BGA, which is what we're, as far as the LLC is concerned, Board Gamers Anonymous is what the LLC is under, but BGA kind of is the umbrella organization for Board Gamers Anonymous, Board Game Academics, BGA Live, Board Game
Right.
Advisors, and I think one or two other things I'm not thinking off the top of my head. So we've kind of like spreaded the brand out, so the BGA letters still continue to go on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been very educational.
Well, we did our job then. We did a thing. It's a reboot. It's a reunion episode. It's a callback. It's a thing.
Except we haven't talked about a game yet.
It's nostalgia. It's I don't know. It's all those things and more.
Well, thanks, Anthony.
Absolutely, 100%. So we continue on. All right, with that said, let's get on to the episode. Certainly, first and foremost, let's talk about games, Dave. Games.
That's right.
It's the thing that's in your name.
That's right.
First up, we're going to talk about our roll for preview. So for our roll preview this week, we want to talk about games that we hope to get to the table, things that are going to become available soon in the near future. And one of the games that I talked about recently, and especially this game that I talked about recently, because Dave, not too long ago, we did an episode on the top 10 nature tableau engine builders. Now, I know that's a mouthful, Dave.
Yeah.
But we've started to see over the last couple of years so many games come out that are nature themed. They have a tableau, which means all the cards that you are playing are in front of you. Yeah. And typically they're an engine. They do something for you. Typically they benefit nature. They score points and things of that nature. So think of like a Wingspan, for example. That would fit into that system. Also, that was episode 571. So if you want to listen back to it, please check that out. A lot of fun. And it's really the hot topic right now in tabletop gaming. Like it used to be zombies and it used to be pirates. And then ironically it became nature out of all things. So yeah, a lot of games on trees and animals and fungi, somehow that became a thing. And one of the games we did talk about was Earth. And one of the things that we mentioned was Earth was getting a new version, a lighter, faster version. In fact, it got 2 new versions. It's currently up on Kickstarter, and it's called Earth Express. And there's also another game, part of this Kickstarter package, that's called Behind the Lens. So these are 2 new standalone games based in the Earth universe, rooted in nature, driven by simultaneous play. That was what Earth was known for. Have you played Earth, Dave?
I have not, but I did listen to that episode, and one of the games that I do carry around to library events, besides Wingspan, is Arboretum that you mentioned.
Arboretum's great, yes. Yeah. Earth is a very good game. I don't know if it's necessarily a library game, just because you are building pretty big tableaus, and there's a lot of pieces to it. And it's certainly one of those games where if the table gets bumped, problems happen because you're building up a lot of pieces on top of each other. That being said, it was this kind of, I guess, somewhat quasi take on Terraforming Mars, but it was based on Earth.
Okay.
So if you've played the game before, if you haven't played the game before, basically you are dealing with flora and fauna, right? So you're dealing with the plants and the animals. You are putting together a tableau of plant cards from a very, very large deck, Dave. I mean, incredibly large. And you end up with an incredibly large hand of cards. And your job is to place cards in the tableau, and based on their adjacency and a number of other factors based on their special abilities, they'll do different things.
Okay.
Primarily, what they're doing is they're growing because they're plants and there's seeds and there's other growths and things of that nature. But also the cards you don't use become dirt. They become dirt for the other, they become cards that you can use and expend for other things.
Okay.
The victory points are the animals. The animals will say X number of points based on this environment or this plant or something of that nature. It's a very broad, sprawling game. And I think if Terraforming Mars never came out, it would have been much, much bigger.
Oh, okay.
But Terraforming Mars kind of still owns that space, even to this day, a little bit. But
Right.
now Earth has come out with these two other games. Now, the Express is probably could be a library game for you, Dave. It's a shorter, quicker, smaller footprint of a game for Earth.
Okay.
So basically, you have a tableau of 9 cards, and a card flips over, and then it tells you what actions you can take, and everyone at the table takes the same actions. This is the benefit of this game, Dave. It has simultaneous actions, so everyone's doing something at the same time, so you're not having to wait for your turn while someone does 12 different things.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So you're going to draft cards. You're going to use the plant cards in your tableau. You're going to activate their abilities. That's pretty much very straightforward. So this might replace Earth for a lot of people out there who don't want that kind of massive kind of table space kind of hog. And then there's Behind the Lens, which again is a game about same thing, about these beautiful, Earth vistas, all these plants and animals. But here you're a photographer and you are gaining and sliding tokens on a board to create the correct settings for a camera that then meets the conditions of the picture, and then you score that picture.
There's a game for everything.
There literally is, Dave. I mean, I think there's an episode in that for sure.
Yeah.
So again, you're drafting these multi-use card tiles that you put in there, and you're moving them around, and you're scoring points. So both these games are on the same campaign. They're currently on Kickstarter. If you're interested in backing it, the project will wrap up on Friday, May 8th, 2026. Or if you're listening to this in the future, you probably could pick it up at a local game store. And the campaign itself, again, very interesting, very fun. Looks good. Have not played it yet, but I'm actually looking forward to checking it out. Again, this is Earth Express, and I guess in the Earth series, Behind the Lens. So 2 games to take a look at on Kickstarter, 2 games to check out. Obviously, Earth Day just recently passed. So
Right.
it's another opportunity to engage with Mother Earth and tell her how much you love her by playing a really fun tabletop game about it.
That is a good idea for a game night.
Yes.
Earth-themed games on Earth Day.
100%. Yeah, and the games, if you want to back both, we're talking $69 for both, which is relatively a good deal. Obviously, shipping is the number one concern now at this point, but and then individually, one game is about $30, and the Lens game is about $40. But you do get some bonuses with that as well.
All right. Well, that's great.
All right. Well, that leads us on to our roll for review. Dave, Game Master Dave, you played games.
I did. I am so busy that so many times I don't get a chance to play any games whatsoever. But it just so happens that in the last couple of weeks, I don't know, I've just played so many different ones, including several different war games, which is also an amazing rarity for me.
So that's why our feature review is quick takes from the table. And Dave and I are going to let you know if those games are a buy and you should run out and pick those games up. If those games are a play, you should sit down and play them. If those games are a dodge and you should avoid them. Or if, in fact, Dave, as I mentioned earlier, we fight for the people. Those games are burned, and we burn them because they're not good. They're bad, and they came from the earth, and therefore they shall return to the earth.
I love hiking and camping, so if we end up with a burn one, we can start a fire pretty easily.
All right, Dave. So why don't you give me one of the games that you played this week?
Sure. So before going into the war games, I will just talk about. I attended for my first time. I had some friends invite me multiple times.
Oh.
To a board gaming night out here on Long Island. It happens every Wednesday night
Mm-hmm.
at a ice cream and dessert store.
Fun.
I was like, what? So I showed up for my first time. Now, I did not know that they met at 5 o'clock. So when I walked in, they were already playing a game. And so I had to wait for that one to finish. And then I jumped in on a game of Foodies. I forgot about that I played Foodies. And then I love teaching games. So we were trying to figure out which game to play next. And I said, well, I brought Ra. And I have a little story to tell you about Ra. And nobody at the table had played it yet. So I got a chance to scratch my itch, which is teaching games. And Ginger just got this game for me this past holiday season. But there is an interesting story about Ra because it is a remake of a game that came out many years ago. And so I got the updated version of it. But I have a story from my game store that I opened, the game table in Mineola, New York. My first day that I was open, a customer came in and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see a game store here open." And I said, "Yeah, thank you so much." And he goes, "I've been looking for a game for a while, and I can't find it. And do you do special orders?" And I was like, "Of course I do special orders. This is my first day open. I'm going to try to appease everybody." And he said, "I'm looking for this game, Ra." And I was like, "I haven't heard of it. Let me go see if I can find it." So lo and behold, I checked all my vendors. I checked eBay. I checked everywhere that I could. And at that time, it was out of print, and they were like selling for like $200 or $300 on eBay. And I was like, "What is this game?" So my first customer, I highly disappointed by calling him 2 or 3 or 4 days later and said, "There's no way I can get this game for you. I'm so sorry. If I can help you in the future, let me know." So now, let's see, 2000, almost 18 years later, Ginger buys me Ra for the holidays, and we got a chance to play it. So I did get a chance to teach it and talk about game mechanics. That is like that's a bidding. It's like a bidding mechanic, I guess. But it's unique. You've played it, right, Chris?
Yes, it's Ryan Knizia classic auction game, and I think even more recently, I think maybe it was. I remember 3 years ago or so, Chris and Aaron, who've both been on the podcast from Board Games for the Better, right. They brought their new super deluxe fancy version,
okay,
which was very nice, very high quality pieces. So I was glad to play that as well. And I don't generally think of myself as an auction game guy, but I really do enjoy this game a lot. I really have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, the one thing that I thought was really unique was, and teaching it, I had to explain it, that you would do 3 rounds, which is common in games. There's 3 rounds, but some of the pieces that you auction, bid for, and win, are only good for the final round scoring, which is the monuments.
Yes.
And then other ones stick around on the left-hand side. They stay around to the end of the game. They score each round, but they stick around to the end of the game. And the ones on the right-hand side go away at the end of each round.
Sure.
You score them and then they go away. And so I had to, it was only the second time that I taught the game. And so my brain was going like, how do I teach this concept?
Yes.
So I think I got it now, but I stumbled a little bit and people were going like, what?
It's a challenging game, like you said, because basically a market of tiles come out, at least one tile comes out. And then, obviously people have an opportunity to bid with these kind of bid markers, and everyone gets to see obviously what other people's numbers are, but what is good enough to bid a high number or a low number, again, based on what's out there. So then eventually the market of tiles becomes very good,
right?
But very good is very relative. Like you said, Dave, like sometimes there's bad tiles in there, but maybe it's still good for you. Sometimes they're temporary. Sometimes they're long-term. Sometimes it's a set collection. So yeah, there's a lot of different small dynamics in that kind of choosing thing, where I think most auction games is just like, can you get the most for your money? Here it's like, it's auction, but it's also set collection, and I think that's also challenging as well. So
Right. Now, the other thing that's interesting is that I experienced that there's multiple advanced mechanics slash strategies
Sure.
because, if somebody invokes Ra, they have to bid. So now you can see what their numbers are that they have
Yes.
available. And so you can force them to use a bidding number that they didn't want to use,
Sure.
So there's some interesting things there. And then if you run out of bid chits, I guess, for lack of a better name of it, I don't know the actual name, you can't bid anymore. So you got to time your stuff properly, So there's some interesting strategies in that game. I have enjoyed it so far.
Yeah.
So I would say if you, well, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I was just going to, again, Dave, just go a little bit deeper with that. Like, obviously, we're talking about, the god Ra, the ancient Egyptian theme. The theme plays really well out here, and it's a beautiful game. The artwork, the components, again, no matter what level you get, it's an auction game, so you don't have to go too crazy. But the new deluxe edition is fantastic. And again, you're influencing pharaohs, building monuments, farming on the Nile, stuff like that. So it's certainly an experience at the very least.
I would say that if you are an auction fan, if that's the mechanic that's scratches your itch, that I would say it's a buy.
I would even go further, Dave. I would say again, even if you're not an auction fan, you should play it. And I also give it a buy because I think it's one of those situations where it's so good somehow because again, like it's not a one. It's like you don't have to be great at auction. You just have to be smart enough to get what you need again based on those tiles. So there's more flexibility because if it was a straight auction, like if you played For Sale, which is a great little auction card game, like when you flip the cards over and you see what you get, like you did well or bad. Here, the tiles make up like what the market kind of pulled together. Right. That's a little bit of a different thing.
The other interesting strategy, I haven't played it enough to really uncover all of the advanced strategies. but the one thing that I found interesting was like, sure, I think I'll bid a 10 or 11 chit out of a total of maximum 13 that I might have available.
Yes.
But what's hanging out in the middle of the board that I'm going to get for next round? A 2.
Yes.
And so
that's
you're
part
like,
of it.
whoa, yeah, it's part of it. It's like, no, I don't. I really need those things, but I don't want to ruin my next turn.
Yes.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah, those dynamics keep the game, like I said, a little more flexible, so it's not a absolute win or loss. Because, like you said, you might win something but lose because you gave up a big token for it to somebody else.
That's really interesting. I thought of this mechanic that just came into my head, and I guess it's a catch-up mechanic.
Sure.
In a way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So if I use a big bidding number to win a really awesome set of tokens that's going to score me a lot of points, and I get a low bidding number for the next round, I'm not going to be that successful in the next round, and somebody else is going to get my big number.
100%.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, and sometimes you let the tiles go and you don't bid. You hold on to your bidding tokens and you get to the very end, and now you're bidding on like junk.
Yeah,
and you're just like, what the heck?
Right.
So,
very interesting. And there's a timer each round too, which is a unique kind of
thing, which will then Ra on its own for bids. Yep, 100%.
Well, good.
Very
good
cool,
game.
Dave. What else you got for us, Dave?
Okay, so then I went over a friend's house, which is a rarity, and he's got 2 young kids, and well, when I say young, they're 10 plus, and we invited them to play some games with us, and they decided not to. Some other times they have.
Sure.
So I ended up just playing 2 games with my friend. And the reason why I thought this would be good is because the kids had recently watched all of the Lord of the Rings series.
Oh, very nice.
So I brought 2 Lord of the Ring themed games with me.
Yes.
And at first I played with my friend Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then we played a 2-player game of Fate of the Fellowship, Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship. So both games were fantastic. We had a lot of fun. He was learning them for the first time, and he has also never played Seven Wonders Duel before.
Oh, okay.
So it was a new experience for him, although the games are quite different. The base mechanics would be the same, of course.
Pretty much, yeah.
Choosing a card from the duel. But I will tell you, Lord of the Ring, both of these games are creeping up my favorite games of all time. This
I can imagine.
mentioned early in the podcast. They both might be in my top 25 games of all time right now. I really enjoy Seven Wonders Duel. I've taught it a ton of times. I've played it a ton of times. I just love the way that it the stress about the choices. Do I take this card, put it to my tableau? Do I take this card, build a wonder, or do I take this card and burn it to make sure my opponent doesn't get it? But then the additional strategy or the pain in decision making is, if I take this card, it unlocks these other cards, and I don't know what they are. And once they flip over, my opponent's going to win the game. And it's like, no. And you're forced to take a card. So now in Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth, there is something else you can do besides take a card. If you're able to afford it or have the right skills, you could buy one of the tiles that are available.
Yes.
So that adds an additional strategy. And then the race mechanic of the Nazgul chasing down Frodo and Sam, and Frodo and Sam racing to put the ring into Mount Doom with the little glass slider. I think it's so great. I really do.
Yeah, Seven Wonders Duel has, and its expansions have always been in either my top 10 or top 15 of all time. And I think no matter how many years I've done this at this point, it still has stuck around there. And then when they talked about Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth coming out, I was just like, oh, I love Lord of the Rings. This is definitely going to be a buy. It's definitely, because again, it's going to keep the same thing. As you mentioned, Dave, like you have the plastic tracker where the Nazgul are chasing down Frodo. So you have that kind of stress, that kind of push and pull kind of thing. You also have, like you said, the big bonuses, the locations areas that you're trying to get to the table, and obviously the military battle that's happening on the map. Again, all very thematic of the actual movies and books. But what this game does that's so much better, and I could not have imagined it back in the day, was it took out some of the simple yet complex arithmetic that often had to go on, like, oh, you have 3 wood, so therefore my thing is X amount of money more expensive. And like the economics was more of a bigger thing in that other Seven Wonders Duel, which made sense because you were competing with other civilizations, and economics is one of the ways that you could attack or limit other players. Here, you have more stress because you're dealing with multiple areas that are competing with each other at all time, and just one card away will win or destroy you. So you don't have time to think about, +3, +2 for this. It's a faster game. It's a better produced game. You don't have to love Lord of the Rings to kind of understand or play the game.
Right.
And Anthony and I played this a lot together, and it always comes down to like the last 1 or 2 cards. And that's really what you want when you play a 2-player game, is you want that kind of tension throughout. So this has always been a buy for me as well.
And then if you are a Lord of the Rings fan,
yes,
like weird events happen. Like one time I was playing against Ginger, my wife, and I was the shadow player, and I won because I got all 6 fellowship cards. So Sauron influenced the fellowship, all the races of Middle Earth to join him in his war against Middle Earth.
Fantastic.
It's so funny.
Have you played the expansion yet?
I have not. No.
I don't love the expansion because you get 2 or 3 cards of leaders that you kind of employ.
Okay.
And then just some cards are more powerful than the others. I think that's the only kind of issue. I love expansions. I love global effects, so I'm not against it, but there is some balancing issue as far as leaders are concerned.
Now, the other Lord of the Rings game that we played was Fate of the Fellowship. I was teaching it, and I love teaching that game. I get so into it. I taught it like 25, 30 times at PAX Unplugged last year, and with an organization that hired me to go there and do it. And I just had so much fun, and he really liked it too. And this also is wonderfully themed. you're rewriting the books as you're moving the pieces, moving Frodo and Sam closer to Mount Doom, and all
Yes.
the allies run around and do things. So here we were. We got into Mount Doom with Frodo and Sam. We had the 5 rings to toss into Mount Doom and thing. And then I totally forgot, because it's been a couple months since I played that, and I was like, and there's no Nazgul in Mordor.
That's
this
crazy.
is gonna be fantastic. We're gonna win. And then and we only had 1 hope left, and I was like, 1 hope. We're gonna win with 1 hope. And then, of course, you have to roll that search that's in Mount Doom of the many dice, maximum 7 of the search dice of the missing hope you have. And I'm
that's crazy.
Oh my gosh. So, so we got decimated. But, I thought that was really interesting that, yes, you got to do 3 things besides all the other objectives.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 elements to winning the game. You got to get Frodo and Sam there. They got to have 5 rings, and then you got to have some hope so you don't get eliminated by a search roll.
Yes.
And I thought the game was very well done. Now, I have seen online some people have broken the game in some ways.
Okay.
And I don't know if you want me to talk about that. I don't necessarily want to, but
that's okay.
I guess there is, depending on, but you have to choose certain objectives. You have to choose certain characters. So, if you randomize your objectives and randomize your characters, once you learn how to play, I think the replayability of the game is unbelievable.
Yes, so I want to talk about this more in detail another point, but Anthony and I got a chance to play Fate of the Fellowship with 3 other gamers, and it was the first time I played it. Anthony has the game. Anthony has played the game before, so I was new, and I think there might have been 1 or 2 other people who were new. So we were playing, I guess, the entry level. I mean, normal. Yes. We played the normal difficulty,
right?
And so again, we should also say Fate of the Fellowship, Lord of the Rings, as you said, the movies and the books, but the mechanics are Pandemic.
Right.
So if you've ever played Pandemic, primarily what you're doing is Pandemic-like, where the Fellowship, all these different characters have different special abilities. These abilities are more complex and more diverse than in Pandemic, but they still do similar things because the orcs that come out the boards are kind of like the viruses, and you have to fight them back, and you have to make sure that they don't overspread and take over certain strongholds, because as Dave mentioned, you have a hope track, and if that goes down to 0, you lose the game automatically. So that's one part of it. Getting Frodo to destroy the ring, that's another part of it, of course. I thought it was one of the best produced, best looking, the artwork, the graphic design. I think the Nazgul were a little too big for the board, honestly, but beyond that, the cardboard dice tower is fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, again, everything about the production here from Z-Man Games, again, beautiful, up and down, everything's great. I will say, though, personally, I did feel like it was a little too much Pandemic, where there's one way to win. There's always a best choice. There's an alpha gamer kind of push here, because I think if you let everyone just go do their own thing, obviously to accomplish those 3 side missions and then the main mission of destroying the ring, certainly you're all kind of focused towards that. But I think there's always a best way. And also it does still have that problem where you could just lose the game based on how the cards come out.
True.
Or you could win the game easier if the cards come in your way. In fact, Dave, we won this game with maximum hope, and we had pushed back everything on the board. Now, again, me, especially playing with Anthony, who's like serious master gamer there at the table, strategizing and just figuring out how he's going to win. So when you have Anthony at the table, you really don't have to worry. But we had other gamers as well, and we had someone who was teaching the game who did a great job and knew the game quite well. So he was able to kind of guide us through these are the best choices as far as what we should make.
Right.
So I will say it does still, for me, falter and fail, that it's still too programmy, puzzly formulaic, like this is what you need to do, this is the best decision, move this here, do this here. When I played Defenders of the Realm, I don't know if you've ever played Defenders of the Realm, Dave.
No.
Okay, we need to play Defenders of the Realm. That's also a pandemic mechanic, but allows more flexibility.
Okay.
So Fate of the Fellowship gets a play for me. It doesn't get a buy because it's just mechanically, it's still just a puzzle. But it's such a good puzzle. It's such a fantastic, replayable puzzle. And again, I can't say anything wrong about it. Again, like I said, right. I just, just that one thing just sticks out at me, but everything else is just overwhelmingly great.
Well, again, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan or a Pandemic
fan,
I would say it's a buy. Otherwise, I think everybody should play this at least once.
I would just buy this just to own it, to be honest with you, Dave. Like, I would just buy it. The pieces are great. The tower's great. If I had an amazing amount of space in the house, I would set this up just to leave it out there, just for people to see it, because I think it's such a high quality board game. And again, this is not a Kickstarter. It's relatively inexpensive as far as it's not $200.
Right. And everything disassembles and goes right in the box. Yeah. And you only have to build Barad-dûr once.
Yes. And it also fits perfectly in the box as well.
Yeah. You have to disassemble just one piece off, 2 pieces off of it every time you put it back in the box. But it's easy to reassemble.
100%. All very good. All right, Dave, what else you got for us?
All right, so then I'm going to quickly run through something. So one of the things that we've mentioned maybe once or twice before, but I've only been on the podcast, I think this is only my 3rd or 4th time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been months, is if I had unlimited time, energy, and money, and I would choose a board game for me to play, it would be a strategic simulation historical board game.
Okay.
In other words, a historical war game. So that is what I really enjoy. That is what I thrive in. And so I don't get a chance to play many war games, let alone play any games. I don't get a chance to play any war games. But it just so happens that this past couple weeks, I have a friend who that's all he plays. That's not true. He 90% of the games he plays is war games. He does it online with people. He does it on vassalengine.org. He's does it through other systems. So he's playing like 6 or 8 games all asynchronously through files over the internet. But I did get over his house. I have gone over his house a few times, probably like once every 6 months. And we played Cradle of Civilization, and we played the Alexander versus Darius scenario. And I will tell you, we had a lot of fun. It was stressful. It was hard. The game rule book's not so bad. I think it was maybe 12 or 14 pages. So it was just almost like a regular board game. And but then we did learn. We were wondering why Alexander had no money, and then we learned that we finished the game, and we learned that we played a rule wrong. So it's like, darn it, we'll have to play it again. And I don't know if I'm going to classify that as, if I talk about war games, I don't know if I should classify them as a play or buy, because it's such a unique kind of genre.
Yes.
That I guess if you're interested in war games, I highly recommend you playing Cradle of Civilization, not necessarily buy it. But so my friend said to me, well, now that we played some Cradle of Civilization, would you like to play a war game on vassalengine.org? And he was showing me a submarine solitaire game that he had. And I was like, this is really cool. And then he mentioned there's a solitaire game called British Tank Ace. And I was like, that sounds great. Now, I am a big fan of B-17 Queen of the Skies, which was a World War II bomber mission game that was solitaire to fly over Germany and drop bombs, and you try to get the best score, and you have 10 crewmen, and bad things can happen to them and good things can happen to them, and you can win medals and all these sort of things, and you shoot down Focke-Wulf 190s and Messerschmitts 109s, and so I love that Gettysburg game. I played it a lot by myself. So this British Tank Ace, so we're playing that now on vassalengine.org, and we're having a great time. So we split the crew, even though it's a solitaire game, we split the crew in the tank, So he's got 3 guys. I've got 3 guys. Yes, there were 6 guys in the tank that we have, an old British tank. And so we roll the dice. When it's my turn to roll to shoot at an enemy, he sends me the file. And then I shoot, I resolve it, and then I send him the file back. So I've been enjoying British Tank Ace. So it's quite interesting.
Wonderful.
And then I have an upstairs attic area, and it has been filled with boxes and stuff that I haven't cleaned out for 10 plus years. And I finally, in the last couple of years, I cleaned it out enough that we can put a table in there and a couple chairs. And Ginger has let me be my man cave. And
Nice.
so we have a kitchen sized table up there. So her feelings was that I want you to use that space to set up a war game that takes 8, 10, 15 hours to play. You can have somebody over and then you can leave it set up. So I got a chance to do that and invited a different friend over that dabbles in war games. And I taught him, and we played for about 3 hours, Gettysburg, Badges of Courage. Now, talk about mechanics. This is a fog of war mechanic, and it has wooden blocks. It's made by Columbia Games. So I love the Columbia Games wooden block games. As a matter of fact, Napoleon from Columbia Games is my second favorite game of all time. So we were having a great time. So, that's a quick review of some of the war games that I played. And if you got questions about war games or whatever, maybe you might want to send me a question, or if you got any, if you have had an experience with war games or something that you're interested in learning more about, I guess you can email the podcast. What's the email?
Well, you can email me at chris@boardgamersanonymous.com.
Okay. Well, there you go. So I've had a lot of fun in the last couple of weeks, especially playing these war games that I had. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of games at the table and more games to come. All right, everyone. Until next time, this is Chris.
And this is Game Master Dave.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Ryan George, host of the Portable Whole podcast. It's a podcast for creatives, especially indie comic makers, where we talk craft, conventions, publishing, and what it really takes to build something from scratch. I share real experiences from in the trenches and sit down with indie creators, big and small, to talk about the work behind the work. If you're building your own creative path and want honest conversations about making comics, this is the show for you. Search for the Portable Whole podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And watch out for the hole.